Hello, I'm Ravi Visvesvaraya Sharada Prasad. In this video, I will examine the issues of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Morarji Desai saving Vinayak Damodar Savarkar from being imprisoned for the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. In a previous video on my YouTube channel, I had analyzed that there was considerable circumstantial evidence that Vinayak Damodar Savarkar had ordered the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. In that previous video, please search for it on my YouTube channel, I had described the numerous lacunae in the investigation and prosecution which compelled the trial court judge Atma Charan to give Vinayak Damodar Savarkar the benefit of the doubt. The junior members of the prosecution team, and my mother was a member of the prosecution team in the trial court in Red Fort in 1948, they suspected that the prosecution case against V.D. Savarkar was being deliberately weakened under instructions from the very top. And Tushar Gandhi, he was a great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. He alleged a few years ago that it was Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel himself who had ensured that V.D. Savarkar was let off. And as I had mentioned in my previous video, Oscar Henry Brown, he was the chief presidency magistrate of Mumbai, and Oscar Henry Brown had handpicked my late mother. Her name is Kamalamma Madhikera Sharada Prasad, to be part of the prosecution team. And Oscar Henry Brown thought that with my mother's postgraduate degree in psychology and with her knowledge of her mother tongue, Telugu, she would be able to elicit evidence from one of the accused, called Shankar Kishtaya. And Shankar Kishtaya was totally illiterate, and he spoke only rustic Telugu. So my mother's assigned task was to elicit evidence from Shankar Kishtaya. And as I had elaborated in my previous video interview, the person who turned approver in return for a pardon, he was called Digambar Ramachandra Badage, and he owned a shop in Pune selling arms and ammunition. And the local authorities, they tacitly encouraged Digambar Badage's weapons dealing activities, because most of his customers were members of the Hindu Mahasabha. And the Hindu Mahasabha further supplied these weapons to the Hindu residents of the Hyderabad Nizam's kingdom to protect themselves from the tyranny of the fanatical Muslim Razakars. And Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he was then the Deputy Prime Minister and the Home Minister. So Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was secretly using the Hindu Mahasabha to conduct a proxy war against the Nizam of Hyderabad's kingdom, where the fanatical Muslim Razakars were butchering Hindus. And as I had described in detail in my previous video, my mother, Kamalamma Madhikera Sharada Prasad, had developed a very good rapport with the affable Digambar Badage and the friendly Vishnu Karkare, and she had won their confidence. My mother was a postgraduate in psychology, And Vishnu Karkare, he was very chatty and forthcoming and candid. And Vishnu Karkare was an absolute stickler for the truth, a total Satyavadi. And Vishnu Karkare just could not tolerate anyone telling a lie at all, even if it was to save themselves. Not only did Vishnu Karkare never tell a lie, but he called out other people who were telling lies, even if they were trying to tell lies to save their own lives. And Vishnu Karkare would often whisper to my mother during the course of the testimony of the accused and the testimony of the witnesses whether what they said was true or not. And even he would do this even when it was inimical to their defense. And most significantly, Vishnu Karkare, he let slip to my mother that V.D. Savarkar had ordered that Gandhi, Nehru, and Suhrawardi should be finished. And this was exactly what Digambar Barge too had alleged in his approval evidence for the prosecution. And my mother passed on all this information to the lawyers and the prosecution team. But as I said in my previous video interview, that this was never followed up on, and this was not placed into the formal evidence. And my mother was ordered to confine herself to her assigned task of obtaining evidence from Shankar Kishtaya alone. And then when my mother persisted in informing the legal team, and the legal team was headed by C.K. Daftari, so when my mother persisted in informing the legal team that Vishnu Karkare had confirmed to her Digambar Barge's allegation that Vinayak Damodar Savarkar had ordered that Gandhi, Nehru, and Suhrawardi should be finished. So then my mother, she was threatened with disciplinary action for hobnobbing with the accused persons. And then to go on to Tushar Gandhi's allegation that it was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel himself who ensured that Vinayak Damodar Savarkar was acquitted. My personal assessment is that Sardar Patel, while he was convinced of the personal guilt of V.D. Savarkar, but Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel wanted to ensure that Savarkar was given the benefit of the doubt. And my personal assessment is that there were three major reasons why Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Morarji Desai wanted to ensure that V.D. Savarkar was acquitted. And the very first reason, in my opinion, was that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was very shrewdly using the Hindu Mahasabha to conduct a proxy war against the Nizam of Hyderabad's kingdom, where the fanatical Muslim Razakars were butchering the Hindus. And the Hindu Mahasabha was secretly supplying weapons to the Hindu residents of the Hyderabad Nizam's kingdom to protect themselves from the tyranny of the fanatically Muslim Razakars. And so V.D. Savarkar and the Hindu Mahasabha, they were crucial to India's strategies to incorporate Hyderabad into the Indian Union. And then the second reason, in my opinion, is that Morarji Desai thought that arresting V.D. Savarkar would lead to uncontrollable communal violence. And just a few weeks after partition, Morarji Desai wanted to avoid violence and instability at all costs. And Morarji Desai was at that time the Home Minister of Bombay Province. And Jimmy Nagarwala, Jamshed Nagarwala, he was the Deputy Inspector General of Police of Mumbai. And Jimmy Nagarwala convinced Morarji Desai of Savarkar's guilt, but Morarji Desai was still reluctant to arrest V.D. Savarkar. And as I described in my previous video, Jamshed Nagarwala of the CID, he was a Parsi gentleman. And so he told my mother, and my mother worked very closely with Jimmy Nagarwala. So Jimmy Nagarwala had asked Morarji Desai for permission to arrest V.D. Savarkar as soon as Morarji Desai mentioned that Professor Jain had visited him to tell him, that is, tell Morarji Desai about Madan Lal Pehwa. And Morarji Desai had very angrily denied permission to Jimmy Nagarwala, exploding in anger. "Are you mad? Do you want all of Bombay to go up in flames?" And Govind Ballabh Pant and Lal Bahadur Shastri too have corroborated that Sardar Patel and Morarji Desai were apprehensive of uncontrollable communal violence if Savarkar was convicted. And Sardar Patel is reported to have said at a meeting of the top Congress leaders, "The Muslims are already against us, and if Savarkar is arrested and convicted, then the Hindus too will turn against us, turn against the Congress." And then the third major reason, in my opinion, is that Sardar Patel wanted to incorporate both the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, into the Congress party. And in fact, both Sardar Patel and Guru M.S. Golwalkar of the RSS thought that the Congress and the RSS should not dissipate their energies by opposing each other, but that in those very tense and critical days immediately after independence and after partition, that both the Congress and the RSS should work together in the interests of the nation. But Sardar Patel, he very shrewdly tried to split the hardline top leadership of the RSS and the Hindu Mahasabha away from their cadres. And Sardar Patel actually invited their cadres to join the Congress party. And if you recall, the Hindu Mahasabha had actually originated as a faction within the Congress party before it split away. And so my personal assessment is that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he wanted the needle of suspicion to fall on Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, which would turn public opinion against the ideology of the Hindu Mahasabha. But by ensuring that Savarkar was let off, Sardar Patel would be able to persuade the foot soldiers of the Hindu Mahasabha and the RSS to join the Congress. And my personal assessment is that Sardar Patel, being a highly experienced criminal lawyer and a shrewd administrator, that he was playing a very finely nuanced game of खुदा को खुश करो लेकिन शैतान को भी नाराज मत करो. And the entire investigation and prosecution teams were handpicked by Sardar Patel and Morarji Desai. And Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he wrote to the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru on 27th February 1948. "I have kept myself in daily touch with the progress of the investigation regarding Bapu's assassination. I devote a large part of my evenings to discussing with Sanjeevi," that is T.G. Sanjeevi Pillai, who was the director of the Intelligence Bureau. So Sardar Patel continued in his letter to Jawaharlal Nehru, to discussing with Sanjeevi the day's progress and giving instructions to him on any points that arise. All the main accused have given long and detailed statements of their activities, and Sardar Patel added in this letter to Nehru, it also clearly emerges from these statements that the RSS was not involved in it at all. And Sardar Patel went on, it was a fanatical wing of the Hindu Mahasabha directly under Savarkar that hatched the conspiracy and saw it through. And by this fanatical wing of the Mahasabha that hatched this conspiracy, Sardar Patel was referring to the Hindu Rashtra Dal, which was a faction of the Hindu Mahasabha, which was founded by the two Godse brothers and Narayan Apte. And in fact, the Hindu Rashtra Dal was too extreme and too fanatical even for the rest of the Hindu Mahasabha. So Sardar Patel said in this letter to Nehru, it also clearly emerges from these statements that the RSS was not involved in it at all. It is a fanatical wing of the Hindu Mahasabha directly under Savarkar that hatched the conspiracy and saw it through. And then Sardar Patel goes on in this letter to Jawaharlal Nehru. Of course, his assassination was welcomed by those of the RSS and the Mahasabha who were strongly opposed to his way of thinking and to his policy. But beyond this, I do not think it is possible, on the evidence which has come before us, to implicate any other members of the RSS or the Hindu Mahasabha. So it is very significant that Sardar Patel wrote to Nehru, it clearly emerges that the RSS was not involved at all. It was a fanatical wing of the Hindu Mahasabha directly under Savarkar, and that is the Hindu Rashtra Dal, which was too extreme even for the rest of the Hindu Mahasabha, that hatched the conspiracy and saw it through. And of course, his assassination was welcomed by those of the RSS and the Mahasabha who were strongly opposed to his way of thinking and to his policy. But beyond this, I do not think it is possible, on the evidence which has come before us, to implicate any other members of the RSS or the Hindu Mahasabha. And then Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, he was head of the Hindu Mahasabha and he was a cabinet minister in the government of Jawaharlal Nehru. So Shyama Prasad Mukherjee wrote to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel on 4th May 1948, and that is well before the charge sheet was filed. And this is what S.P. Mukherjee wrote. I understand Savarkar's name is being mentioned in this connection. I do not know what evidence has been found against him. I have not the least doubt that you will satisfy yourself that nothing is done which may give rise to the suggestion later on that he was prosecuted on account of his political convictions. I hope the records will be placed before you before any decision is taken. And S.P. Mukherjee goes on in this letter to Sardar Patel about Savarkar. His sacrifices and suffering in the past have been considerable, and unless there is some positive proof against him, he should not, at this age, be subjected to the charge of conspiracy to commit murder. I leave the matter to your decision. And so this is what Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, who was head of the Hindu Mahasabha and a cabinet minister in Nehru's government, wrote to Sardar Patel. And then Sardar Patel replied to Shama Prasad Mukherjee on 6th May 1948. As regards Savarkar, the Advocate General of Bombay, and that is C.K. Daftari, who is in charge of the case, and other legal advisors and investigating officers met me in Delhi before I came here. I told them quite clearly that the question of inclusion of Savarkar must be approached purely from a legal and judicial standpoint, and political considerations should not be imported into the matter. My instructions were quite definite and beyond doubt, and I am sure they will be acted upon. And Sardar Patel goes on to add, I have also told them that if they come to the view that Savarkar should be included, the papers should be placed before me before action is taken. And then Sardar Patel goes on in this letter, concludes the letter. This is, of course, insofar as the question of guilt is concerned from the point of view of law and justice. Morally, it is possible that one's conviction may be the other way about. And so, if you read between the lines, it suggests that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was hinting to Shama Prasad Mukherjee that V.D. Savarkar bore the moral responsibility for the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, but that the legal culpability could not be pinned on Savarkar, because he says in this letter, this is, of course, insofar as the question of guilt is concerned from the point of view of law and justice. Morally, it is possible that one's conviction may be the other way about. And regarding the involvement of the Hindu Rashtra Dal, and as I said earlier, the Hindu Rashtra Dal was founded by Narayan Apte and Nathuram Godse and Gopal Godse, and it was just even too extreme for all the other members, the rank and file of the Hindu Mahasabha. And it is significant that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel again wrote to Shama Prasad Mukherjee, I quite agree with you that the Hindu Mahasabha as an organization was not concerned in the conspiracy that led to Gandhi's murder. But at the same time, we cannot shut our eyes to the fact that an appreciable number of the members of the Mahasabha gloated over the tragedy and distributed sweets. On this matter, reliable reports have come to us from all parts of the country. And then Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel added in this letter, further, militant communalism, which was preached until only a few months ago by many spokesmen of the Mahasabha, including men like Mahanta Digbijoy Nath, Professor Rain Singh and Deshpande, could not be but be regarded as a danger to public security. The same would apply to the RSS, with the additional danger inherent in an organization run in secret on military or semi-military lines. Okay, so this is what Sardar Patel wrote to S.P. Mukherjee, that the Hindu Mahasabha could not but be regarded as a danger to public security, and the same would apply to the RSS, with the additional danger inherent in an organization run in secret on military or semi-military lines. And again, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he again wrote to Shama Prasad Mukherjee on 18th July 1948. As regards the RSS and the Hindu Mahasabha, the case relating to Gandhiji's murder is sub judice, and I should not like to say anything about the participation of the two organizations, but our reports do confirm that as a result of the activities of these two bodies, particularly the former, an atmosphere was created in the country in which such a ghastly tragedy became possible. And Sardar Patel continued in this letter to S.P. Mukherjee, there is no doubt in my mind that the extreme section of the Hindu Mahasabha was involved in this conspiracy. And Sardar Patel added in this letter to Shama Prasad Mukherjee, the activities of the RSS constituted a clear threat to the existence of government and the state. Our reports show that these activities, despite the ban, have not died down. Indeed, as time has marched on, the RSS circles are becoming more defiant and are indulging in their subversive activities in an increasing measure. So this is what Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel wrote to Shama Prasad Mukherjee on 18th July 1948, that the activities of the RSS constituted a clear threat to the existence of the government and the state, and that they were indulging in subversive activities in an increasing measure. And then to elaborate on the point that I had mentioned earlier, that the RSS had offered to work together with the Congress-led government, the Sarsang Chalak of the RSS, Guruji Golwalkar, Madhav Sadashiv Golwalkar. So Golwalkar wrote to Sardar Patel, I and all my co-workers have been striving from the very start to cooperate with you to bring the situation under control and make our motherland invincible. Keeping in mind the delicate situation in the country and with a view to removing dissensions for the sake of a glorious future, I had instructed all my Swayamsevak brothers to be peaceful, and I strove to see that between the Congress, which is capable of delivering goods in the political field and is at present the ruling party, and the RSS in the cultural field, which has achieved success in creating a matchless spirit of patriotism, brotherhood, and selflessness among the people, there be no bad blood, there be only everlasting love, one supplementing and complementing the other, both meeting in a sacred confluence. I extend my hand of cooperation. And Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel wrote to M.S. Golwalkar on 11 September 1948. In this delicate hour, there is no place for party conflicts and old quarrels. I am thoroughly convinced that the RSS men can carry on their patriotic endeavor only by joining the Congress. And Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he further wrote to M.S. Golwalkar on 26th September 1948. My suggestion to you is that the Sangh should be brought to adopt fresh lines of technique and policy. That new technique and new policy can be only according to the rules of the Congress. And then, when Jawaharlal Nehru was abroad to attend a Commonwealth conference, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel extended a formal invitation from the Congress Party to the members of the banned RSS organization to join the Congress. And actually, at that time, there was some speculation that Sardar Patel wanted to use these erstwhile members of the RSS, and the RSS had been banned by Sardar Patel, and that Sardar Patel wanted to use these erstwhile members of the RSS because he viewed them as a very disciplined cadre but misguided youth. He wanted to undermine the support base of Jawaharlal Nehru in the Congress party. So these were the rumors that were going around at that time, but there is just no evidence that Sardar Patel really wanted to use these RSS members to undermine Jawaharlal Nehru's authority, but he certainly wanted the RSS cadres to join the Congress party because he viewed them as a very disciplined cadre. And then again, after Vinayak Damodar Savarkar was given the benefit of the doubt by Atma Charan. Atma Charan was an ICS officer acting as a judge. So no appeal was filed in the Punjab High Court against the acquittal of V.D. Savarkar, and this was a decision which fell within the authority of the Home Ministry, and the Home Minister was Sardar Patel. And in fact, Justice G.D. Khosla, he was one of the three Punjab High Court judges who were hearing the various appeals filed by by everyone who was convicted by Atma Charan. So this three-judge bench in Shimla of the Punjab High Court was hearing the appeals filed by Nathuram Godse and Gopal Godse and Narayan Apte and all the others. And Justice G.D. Khosla expressed his surprise that Savarkar's acquittal by Atma Charan was not challenged in the High Court. Okay, so please subscribe to my channels on YouTube and IGTV, and please follow me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. My Twitter account is @RVP. @RVP is my Twitter account. On my YouTube channel, I will be uploading several more videos about politics, the economy, business and industry, and about technology. So please subscribe to my YouTube and IGTV channels. This is Ravi, Visvesvaraya, Sharada, Prasad saying goodbye. Have a wonderful day.